I was at a pretty low, bottom at the time of my life. I was so sick of being in an industry that was so dependent on my physical appearance. I was so sick of being a prop for something else and some other company. But it really put a fuel in my engine to build something for myself. There was just a moment where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And if I ever am doing this when I don't want to do this anymore, knowing that I'm really good at working hard, but it's going to burn me out. The idea of me working so hard and putting so much into this experience and then it being gone, I want to just make it more accessible than what I was seeing as an option at the time. The solution was to put everything underneath one umbrella and have people access that umbrella, a membership. And I dreamt of it. I drew it out on a piece of paper. I mean, this was an idea that has been simmering for at least a couple of years before it finally came to fruition. I would rather own everything and feel very authentic. For us, merch is a branding move. It is a relationship move.
This is Sarah Beth Yoga. Through strategic content planning, community building, and saying no to things that take away from her peace and time, she has built a 7-figure yoga empire with YouTube at its back. She has definitely come a long way from making yoga videos in her boyfriend's parents' basement to now leading a community of over 8,000 members, including 400 founding members who have been with her since the very beginning. In this episode, we will cover the necessity of a make it or break it situation, how she scaled by focusing on a strategic content plan that includes playlists and calendars, the importance of setting boundaries and saying no, and why and how she has 0 sponsorship deals on her channel. Sarah Beth outlines how building a life and business centered around what matters most to you can lead to both personal fulfillment and financial success in the creator economy. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by GigaStar. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
Hi, thank you for having me.
To get started, what do you create on the internet?
I create yoga videos on the internet.
Love how simple and succinct that is. How does one start creating yoga videos on the internet?
One starts just creating videos on the internet and then eventually finds that through yoga, there's a lot of content that wasn't out there. This is back in 2010. So I already started a YouTube channel back in 2010. I called it the Sarah Beth Show. I thought it was going to be just a variety channel, a vlog style channel, all about everything I was interested in. And soon after I started that and I was just trying to make videos, they were really cringy too. They were really bad.
What were you filming with? Like one of those little silver handheld camera things?
I was filming with the MacBook camera, like the camera on my MacBook. Yeah. Angled up, my boyfriend's dorm room with like an overhead boob light on me. It was really bad, but it was my start. And not long after I started, I also went to a yoga teacher training. And while I was in yoga teacher training, I looked around and I thought, I'm learning how to teach yoga and I'm learning how to teach like a 60-minute yoga class. But once I'm done teaching it, it's just gone. Like poof. It's not to be experienced again. So I thought if I'm going to put all that effort into teaching a class, might as well document it. And then people can do it over and over and over again. And not only that, but I was a firm believer even back then that it doesn't have to be a 60-minute yoga class for you to get the benefits of yoga. So I started making little 5-minute, 10-minute yoga clips on my YouTube channel. And that's when things started to shift to Sarah Beth Yoga.
Where do you think that idea came from? Like, what part of you or what experience did you have in your life that led you to ask the question, just to have the thought, I don't want to keep doing this same class over and over again, or that was a really great class, I wish I could repeat it. Why don't I start recording these to let it live longer and exist for longer? Like, where did that come from?
I think for me, it was knowing that I'm really good at working hard, but it's going to burn me out. So the idea of me working so hard and putting so much into this experience and then it being gone, or the people that are coming to take the class don't get to get that same experience again, or they have to come back next Tuesday at 7:15 to get a similar experience. I want to just make it more accessible than what I was seeing as an option at the time.
I think that's hugely amazing. Okay, so you're uploading videos on YouTube for teaching yoga. When did it occur to you that, I could make money from YouTube?
I think that was an original thought. Even when I started Sarah Beth's show, was
okay.
This could be the next thing for me. I don't know how. I couldn't see the whole staircase, but I was willing to take that first step. I was willing to try. And to be honest, I was at a pretty low, like bottom at the time of my life. I had been modeling for, let's see, I was like, how old was I when I started my YouTube channel? 19 or 20. And I'd been modeling for like 6 years at that point. I was so sick of being in an industry that was so dependent on my physical appearance. I was so sick of being a prop for something else in some other company. And I am thankful that I have that experience because I know now how to be on camera. I know what a photo shoot looks like, what a video shoot looks like. I know how to read PSAs, and that's a good skill stack for me. But it really put a fuel in my engine to build something for myself. And at the time, I was inspired by the Philip DeFranco show. And I thought, I mean, let's go a little further back. I had been stripping for 2 years prior to that too. And I knew at that time I wanted to quit. I knew, like, there was just a moment where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And if I ever am doing this when I don't want to do this anymore, that's big red flags. So I thought that's the day I quit. And I did quit. And I was living off of my shoebox savings at the time. And that shoebox savings is what got me into my yoga teacher training. And honestly, what got me into all of that is my boyfriend. He's now my husband, but at the time he was my boyfriend. And he handed me The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss and Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and E-Myth Revisited. And I read all of those, and that just formed this whole like idea of, I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to make money, but I'm going to do it. And it probably took a year before I saw any pennies coming in through AdSense at the time, but it worked.
What were the conditions that you had in place that allowed for you to go full-time as a YouTuber?
I was very young, so I had very little demands in my life. I had very little responsibilities. As I was like coming off of my shoebox savings, and my husband, he graduated college, we ended up moving into his parents' basement, and I just used all of this extra free time to record. And the mistake I had at the time was thinking that I had to record with a different background every time. So I was like rearranging their whole basement to record videos. But I think about it and I'm like, wow, I had so much time and such little need for money. It was a good mix right there.
I can relate to this so much. It was so 2010 is also when like I had gotten started like with entrepreneurship as well. And I was living with my parents. I'd lost my job like from recession stuff, and I had to move back in with them, and it was like soul crushing. And through all of this like crappy, like, how do I get out of the house, meetup.com, like events and things like that. I made friends. I met my husband, and I was like, what do I want to do? I can't get a job because no one's hiring. No one's ever doing anything. And everyone was asking me about the social media thing. So I got on board with it. And I remember at one point in time, I had moved in also with my boyfriend and my boyfriend's parents. He's also now my husband, in with their house. And like, they was like, okay, I'm just going to like hunker down in this like random bedroom in this house and just like work all day, all the time. If I'm not like at this mixer networking thing, doing stuff, just like reaching out, doing phone calls, talking to people, doing that hustle. And it's so funny. I had the exact same mentality, which is like, I don't have much of expense and I have no choice but to make this work. Otherwise, I'm just not going to have an income or a revenue stream or anything to like live off of eventually.
Yeah. Same energy.
It's amazing how that drives you. I don't know if you had or experienced a make it or break it situation, but I know that me and my, at the time, boyfriend, now husband, did as well. We were just really upset with like our living situation. I mean, living with your parents is helpful, but it's tiresome the older you get and hard. And we put ourselves into a situation like where we got an apartment with a friend and we're like, we're going to make this work. Like we have to, we have no choice. And we did it in the first month we did it. Like we did this like happy dance and we were so excited and we were like, we did it. Oh my God. Like we paid for this thing all by ourselves, like real adults. And it was like a whole funny vibe. Did you have that moment in your situation, or what was something similar that you got to go through?
It's a similar situation, but I think it's a little bit drawn out. After living in my in-laws' basement, like they were asking us, like, what's the plan? We're looking at each other going, what's the plan? And we both realized that, if we're going to stay together, we need to leave the state. We lived in Minnesota at the time. And I told him, I can't handle another winter here. I'm going to leave. I'd love for you to come with. And he's like, yeah, same. And we ended up deciding on Colorado, which is where I'm at now. And in order to move to Colorado, though, we had to get jobs. We had to, do the real thing and make sure that everything was going to work, that we can pay our bills. I ended up getting a job as a chiropractic assistant, and it was enough. I mean, we were really broke, but we were able to pay our bills. We did live off of rice and beans, like literally rice and lentils, and occasionally like throw some bell peppers in there. We were so broke, but it was so exciting for us to finally be doing it on our own. He was working a door-to-door sales job at the time, and he was just miserable. And I, as a chiropractic assistant, was gaining a lot of knowledge in the functional medicine, functional movement field. So I was really liking it. But at the same time, I was noticing this already burnout that was coming in where I'm like, I can't do fluorescent lights. Oh my gosh, commute. I don't think this life is for me. So when it came to me actually getting to the point of like, I want to quit my job, that's when my boyfriend, now husband, was like, so quit. I was like, what? He's like, well, if you're not happy, just quit. You can always like double down on YouTube. And so I was like, okay. And I did. I quit my job and I turned to YouTube. And that's when I actually committed to treating it more than a hobby. This was in like 2013 when this happened. So I'd already been, playing with it for 3 years. But when I doubled down, I was like, I'm not going to treat this like a hobby anymore. I'm going to commit. I'm going to learn. I'm going to invest in an SEO specialist. And I'm going to learn how to do this. And that's when I started uploading weekly. And things actually took off. And that was that big celebration moment.
What was the first income stream besides AdSense that you generated from your YouTube channel?
Besides AdSense, it was Vimeo. And what happened was I was uploading everything that I had on YouTube, but I wouldn't upload anything longer than 30 minutes. So a 30-minute yoga video, that takes some effort to make. A 60-minute yoga video takes, holy cow, so much effort to make. Because I'm also editing my voiceover. I'm also editing in music, and I have to go find the music. So I thought to myself, I don't want to upload 60-minute videos to YouTube when they basically get treated the same as a 5-minute or a 10-minute or a 15. So I saved it for Vimeo back in 2015. I had maybe 50,000 subs on YouTube, and I launched this product on Vimeo. I think it was like $8. And I sold like 800. I was so pleased with like, okay, I clearly built an audience here, and I was able to sell a product, but then that was like a big spike. And then I saw very little after that. I had to continue to like promote it to make those sales. And I still wasn't seeing that huge grand spike. So I tried to launch a different product. The first one was 60-minute warrior strength. So it's like a power vinyasa. The second one, I think, might have been a 60-minute low back pain, crickets. I mean, I sold some, and then I tried another one, and then another one. And then I tried a prenatal yoga program because I was pregnant at the time. That did pretty well, but I realized the problem that I had on Vimeo was that I was trying to sell all of these one-off products, and I would have to be on a constant hamster wheel of selling just to get these things to make me income.
So what was the solution to not being on a hamster wheel of always having to create individual product videos?
The solution was to put everything underneath one umbrella and have people access that umbrella, a membership. And I dreamt of it. I drew it out on a piece of paper. I mean, this was an idea that has been simmering for at least a couple of years before it finally came to fruition. When it did come to fruition, let's fast forward to 2017, September 2017, when I launched the Sarah Beth Yoga app, which is the membership, my income 10x'd overnight and sustained that way.
What is it that you think you cracked in the code of membership that allowed for you to have that 10x revenue?
I really built my audience, my community, and that trust and authenticity. And they knew what I was doing, right? So there was a trust that the next video I'm going to come out with is similar. It's the same person. It's the same voice. So when I created this membership, it was also at the time, not a lot of people had these type of membership apps, right? I had to think about how can I make this different than YouTube? So I edited all of my videos to remove like logos and CTAs and just made them super clean. I added some member only content. And one of the things that I did was, and I think this is still a big piece of Sarah Beth Yoga app, is I created a calendar. I started programming my videos. So yeah, I've got hundreds of yoga videos, but do you want to know exactly what videos to do and in what order to gain your deepest flexibility in 31 days? I have a calendar for that. That was actually the first calendar I came out with when I launched the app.
That's genius. It's not even like a calendar. It's like a calendar and a playlist at the same time, right?
Yes.
It's like these two things working together. That's genius. Because that, I think, is like a real like aha moment for how creators who have these massive back libraries can give value to the new incoming like viewers. Okay, you obviously figured this out, and I'd love to know, how can we do that?
My husband is honestly the strategist and like the marketing guy. He's big ideas, and I'm like the hard worker. I still am. So he's always the person that I go to. And like a lot of what I say is me just regurgitating him, Leland. So, and he's the one that's kind of been behind all this. He is the one that, told me, hey, like there's this app, white label app service you can use to launch this membership. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. Try a yoga mat. So if I were thinking, what would Leland say? I would say people should be thinking in terms of course creation. You've got a huge backlog of content. How can you take the playlists and think about how you can meet people's needs? Like, something they don't know. I mean, when it comes to fitness, it's pretty easy to think that way, where it's like, if I want someone with lower back pain to go through a series of 10 videos, what would I tell them to use and in what order? And that's my IP that I can turn into like a course or a playlist, or I call them calendars.
It's so smart and so genius. Like taking the things that we've already built and turning them into a cohesive like playlist with all of the other things that you could do to support it. Like my brain is just spinning with ideas in a way that like this just makes so much sense. I think it's a really smart move. And it sounds like you've been able to, again, taking your existing content, the existing library of stuff, and you're syndicating it into like a really specific way that supports your community and the group that you've built, which I think is really commendable. I'm curious, what's the counter situation that you've experienced? Like, what was a really bad money experience that you had in your creator career?
I've met some not so great people who come off with a really great, confident look. I think like there's a lot of confidence in the marketing industry, and it's really hard to cut through the noise. And it's really hard to cut through the bullshit of what's real and what isn't. So now I'm at a point now where it's like I can meet people and they might tell me, oh my gosh, you can make this and this, and if you just do this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I've been around long enough. I know how this works. And I've heard that story so many times. I've heard the more is more story so many times. And you can't, like, people who tell me like, just make more videos, make videos more often. It's like, yeah, duh. If I make videos, yoga videos 3 times a week, if I upload videos every day, I might grow faster, but that's not sustainable. I'm doing all of this so I can go live my life out there.
I think that is one of those things that so many people forget. You're building a business, not being a creator. And you've obviously, you have over 1 million subscribers on your YouTube channel, and you have this membership that makes up like a massive part of your income, and you have all these different things. So many people get caught up in like this narrative of like, well, if you keep producing more and doing more, eventually you'll just be making more. But at what point do you like, but I'm making what I want and then enough, and it's sustaining, and I can step away and take a break if I need to, which is what you're supposed to be able to do in your own business. I think it's just one of those things that I remember there was this big narrative for a long time. I want to say this like through 2023 or in 2022. Everyone was like, I don't know how to take a break. Like YouTube isn't allowing me to take a break. Like I don't know how to do that. And it's like, you just take a break. Like you literally can just stop. Like for example, especially if you've put in the work, like for me, I haven't posted in my YouTube channel in like over 2 months at the time that we recorded this because I'm rebranding my agency. I'm really busy with work and it just isn't a thing that I am actively doing because when I create my YouTube content, I needed to have something very intentional that it supports. And I don't have that structure in place right now because I'm doing this back end work that's rebuilding and restructuring and redoing all this stuff. So it doesn't make sense for me to create. Like literally my studio that I record everything in is like full of boxes right now. Like that's how like not interested in creating content I am. I'm like, but I still keep getting videos. I've hit new milestones. People are still watching my content. I can still direct people to stuff when they ask me questions. I'm like, hey, I had made this video with this answer, this other thing. You don't always have to be creating. And part of the reason that we create our content is so that we can have this back catalog that continues to service us so that we can go through ebbs and flows and seasons in our lives and in our businesses. That's the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to have to take a break because you've completely burnt out. I mean, the whole point is so that you can go live your life. And if we get caught on that hamster wheel thinking, but if I don't upload every single week on the dot, YouTube's going to punish me. I mean, what's it all for anyway? I did fall apart. I took a break because of total burnout back in 2017. My oldest, he was turning 1 at the time. We were in between apartments. I was struggling so badly with postpartum depression and anxiety. I wrote all about it in my book. But I got to a point where I was like, I'm going to burn this down. I call it the fuck it's. I'm sorry if we can't swear.
You can swear. Go ahead. You're fine.
Okay. Yes. It was called the fuck it's because that's how I felt. I was like, fuck it. And I'm going to burn this whole thing down. And before I do that, I'm just going to close my computer for like however long I need to. And the thing I think I did well at the time was I made a video and I said that. I said, I'm struggling. This is a lot right now. Having a hard time with where I'm at in my life. My mental health's really struggling and I'm going to take a break. I called it a break. And I said, I don't know when I'm coming back. And then I shut my computer and I did come back 3 months later. That it was a long time. It felt that way. It felt like a very long time. But the reason that I came back was because not only did I feel refreshed and healed and grounded and like I was reprioritizing and really absorbing information from podcasts about delegation and elimination and automation and all these ways I can make my life a little easier and what I was doing easier because I was in the solo entrepreneur trap at the time. I also was about to host my son's first birthday party and I put hours into designing that party. His first birthday party, it was a monster themed party. I was cutting little pieces of tissue paper, putting them on the end of a pencil eraser, gluing them onto like a little letter for his name. It was hours of time and effort. And on the day of his birthday, it snowed 1.5 feet. This was April, by the way. And no one showed up except for a neighbor and my mother-in-law who was like staying with us at the time. And I thought, I have a lot of creative energy. And this is not it because my son does not care. He's 1. And if I have all this creative energy and I want to use it, I want to do it in Sarah Beth Yoga in a way that I can feel like I'm connecting with people, I'm being creative, and I'm being paid for it. So how can I do that in a way that makes me feel like I'm still semi-retired?
My husband came back from his deployment. When he deployed in 2016, I had 2 under 2 at the time. And my son had just turned 2. My daughter was 9 months. He left and he came back. And I was having a really hard time with it. Like there was definitely like this weird depression I had gone through. And I remember talking with going to therapy to get help with it because I was like, this isn't right. And I like how I feel and I like how I'm thinking about this. And he said something to me that was really like it gave me permission in a way that I didn't know I needed. And it is okay to not find fulfillment in motherhood. And to me, that was so impactful and powerful because I thought that by becoming a mom, that was like supposed to fill some cup and some hole and make me all of these things. And what I found from like that sentence and that statement and moving forward was that I can love being a mother and I can love my children and I can love my husband and my home, but it doesn't mean it gives me fulfillment. it's the same, and that's why my business is so important for me. And it's the same thing. It's a creative outlet that allows for me to do what I do best and like define who and how I want to be and use the energy appropriately. Because I had the same thing. My son had an incredibly over the top first birthday that was so unnecessary. And it was just all of these things and trying to make it all of this stuff. And it was this like snowballing of things. So I totally understand like where you were and like how you have built that out. And I think for me, the biggest accomplishment that allows for me to have fulfillment is I'm able to see money from it. Like money to me is like my reward for being fulfilled. And I know that sounds like such a weird road to get to that, but I've always said this. I will say the same blue in the face. If you're not making money from it, it's not sustainable and it's a hobby. But when I can do the thing that I'm good at and that fulfills me and I can get paid, like it's the trifecta of happiness for me as a person.
Absolutely. And at this point for me, my biggest reward is that I get the full luxury of lifestyle design. I get to pick my W's. I get to pick where I'm at, who I'm with, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. All of my W's are mine. I'm in full control. And it's because of all of that work that I put in over all of those years.
People really underestimate like those groundwork foundation years and then those systemizing years and then like the benefit years. Like I think that those are really important cycles that we need to go through as entrepreneurs to make sure that we're continuing to be innovative and sustaining and find that balance within what we're doing. I think it's really easy for people to forget that. And I think most of them don't figure that out until they become parents. And it's because they're forced to. And I'm like, let's figure it out in a different way, in a more fun, and in a way that allows for us to live while we're building rather than letting like this gigantic wall stop us from doing all of the things. But yeah, it's so interesting. And I love talking to other moms about their creator journeys and like how motherhood shapes like how they think about things and how they get stuff done and how I love your things like where like they control their W's and they're able to make things happen. So it's just great to thank you. So thank you for sharing that part of your story. Now, one of the things that we do that's really unique on this podcast is that we break down your income streams into a pie chart. And I think my favorite part about your pie chart is $0 comes from sponsorships. Please share that strategy with us.
I have dabbled in the past and I find that it's not worth the tax forms. Honestly, at the end of the month. I feel like there's an inauthenticity too sometimes behind getting paid to promote a product. And at this point now, I only accept sponsorships that are basically partnerships. Like, you know, these singing bowls behind me, if that company reaches out to me or my team reaches out to them, it's like, I use these singing bowls. I love these singing bowls. Yeah, let's talk about how we can do something with them, but not dear Sarah Beth Yoga, we loved this XYZ video from your YouTube channel. Would you like to purchase and use this like Amazon made product? And it's like, no, I don't. I would rather own everything and feel very authentic. And I've told my team we're actually kind of shifting gears in the social media side. And I said, as we go forward, when it comes to partnerships and brand deals, even sponsors for our upcoming retreat, I'm thinking I only want to have maybe 3 max brand partnerships, and they need to be long-term. And I understand right now a lot of brands don't have the budget for that. So I'm okay with that being 0 on my pie chart in the meantime.
That's an incredible place to be in, to like know the worth of your audience and like where you are in those partnerships. And I think that that's something to sell in itself. Like, what? She's opening up sponsorships. There's only 3 spots and it's only going to be for like this limited thing. Like, let me in. Like, I think that is the way that you want to build it. How do we get there? How do we get ourselves into a place where we get to be that particular and choosy, do you think?
Well, I think that if you have only a certain amount of energy to spend on your business, that you should look at where you're spending that energy. And if you're spending that energy negotiating brand deals and contracts for sponsorships and opening up every single email and thinking that you have to respond to those cold emails that are just looking for brands, like, or looking for partners for promoting their product. I think that pulling away from that and pulling your energy back from that will allow you to put that energy into something that's a little bit more lucrative. And then also knowing your value. You know, I got approached at Vid Summit recently to do a LED face mask. And they wanted to give me a 4-figure brand deal, very low in the 4 figures, to make a YouTube video. And I was like, oh, are we still talking? No. What? Like, I know my value and I know the value of my channel and I know how much it's worth to me to put something forward in front of my audience. And so that's why for me, it's like, I would rather have the right brand come forward and say, hey, let's talk about a long-term deal. Let's talk about something where we can actually create an authentic relationship and not this just one-off, make a YouTube video, one-off, make an Instagram post. And I'm able to do that because I've taken all of my energy back and I put it into more lucrative endeavors.
And I also love the thing attaching to it where it's like with like that part ownership where it's like, hey, brand, I am this figure in this space that people listen to and I have the numbers to prove it. If we're going to work together, this is going to be this product by Sarah Beth Yoga. So like your bowls that you have behind you, like, you know, maybe just for an example, those are bowls that are by so-and-so and Sarah Beth Yoga. And so it becomes that sort of like collaboration where there's more prestige and ownership that you get to attach to it, because that's kind of where you get when it comes to stuff. Because if you're just schlecking for somebody else, it can be very inauthentic and it can be very wearisome to always like, oh crap, I got to make a video for them about this thing. And I really want to do this thing for myself. And like, how do I balance it? And I don't know, can I afford to be my own sponsor? It does become kind of that battle for sure.
Yeah. Well, and your audience also has so much energy for you selling things.
Right.
So if you're always selling things for one-offs, you know, they're going to tune you out when you actually want to sell something for yourself.
Okay, let's break down your income stream. So you get 13% of your revenue comes from AdSense, and we have 75% of your income that comes from your membership. I'm very curious, how many members do you currently have in your membership?
We have over 5,000 members in our membership.
Do you know which, like, how many have been in there like the longest? Like, do you have someone that's like from like your first time, like they're still in?
Yeah, we probably have about maybe 300 or 400 that are still founding members from September 2017.
How? Why? Like, it's that 7 years. Why do they keep paying for this membership?
Those founding members are true fans. You know, 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
So those founding members that saw me do something and said, oh, I'm in. I don't know. I don't even know everything about it yet, but I'm in. I want to support you. I want to be with you. I'm in. And they're the ones that bought my app when I first launched it. And they're the ones that are stuck with me ever since. Now, the other factor here is that I launched it with a founding rate. So a founding members rate. At the time, it was $10 a month or $99 a year. And as the membership has grown, as the content has added more value, as I've added features to the app, I've started doing live streams. I added the calendar, like an actual calendar tab to the app where I'm preloading from that calendar playlist into the calendar tab. All these features, that's when the price will start to increase slowly over time. And so with every price increase, I actually grandfather people in on their original price. So anyone that signed up as a founding member, they got to keep their founding member rate. So people who are paying $10 a month right now see that my public pricing is $39 a month. It might make them hesitate if they thought about canceling.
That's an incredibly good thing to do. There's actually a platform out right now, I'm not going to say names, that got acquired, and they're like not honoring any old prices, grandfather prices, like forever lifetime accounts, none of it. Just 40% increase across the board, and everyone is so mad. and like everyone's like, where do we go? Where are we flocking to next? Like it just doesn't build loyalty and community, and it's like, it's kind of like, why did you buy that? But if you're not going to take care of the community. But I think that is such a great way to keep care for your members, and having that grandfathering piece in is such an important thing that teaches your members, like, I care about the money because I need to make revenue. I care more about you showing up and giving you what we promised at the start.
Yeah. We want people to feel good when they associate themselves with Sarah Beth Yoga, whether they're paying for something or they're signing up for something or they're going to join like a live class. I never, even in my comments section, like that, wanting people to feel good with Sarah Beth Yoga, it's everywhere in everything we do.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Okay, you have 5% of your income that comes from affiliates. What are those? Is it just normal things like yoga mats, that kind of stuff? Or do you have a strategic affiliate plan?
We have a partnership with a yoga teacher training. So Happy Jack Yoga teaches an online yoga teacher training. We met him at a Tony Robbins event, way back in the day, 2019, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he was teaching yoga teacher trainings in person at the time. I went to India with him and I brought my whole team to India so I could help him co-teach this yoga retreat in India. And my husband was there. So my husband clearly was like, hey, dude, like, let's put this online. Everything you're doing, you can also do online and build this recurring revenue model with the membership. And then 2020 happened and he got online just in time. And that's when we created that relationship. Because I thought, I have people asking all the time for yoga teacher training. And really, it's kind of the next step from being a yoga practitioner is a yoga teacher. It doesn't have to be, and I'm not saying that it is, but it kind of is for a lot of people. And because people are asking me and I don't have that answer, well, here's the answer now. And I know that I don't want to teach a yoga teacher training. I like being in my lane. And I like being able to get out of my lane to go like snuggle up in a blanket and watch a movie with my kids, not spend more time working on more projects that I don't actually want to be doing. So it was a really great relationship. And that's where the majority of our affiliate income comes in from. We've dabbled with other partnerships. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's really that one. And then smaller, I can't even think of anything off the top of my head at this moment that actually makes up for that part of the income. No
worries. You have 2% that comes from merch. What kind of merch do you sell?
We sell print-on-demand products.
Okay.
We had a yoga mat that we sold for a long time that we actually partnered with a yoga mat company and went through their distribution to get our mats designed, printed, shipped, brought to the distribution center. We walked the distribution center with them. We have sold probably 1,000 yoga mats since we started that whole process back in 2019. And we learned over the years that we're not a product company. So running a distribution center for us was just not really the answer. And dealing with the pitfalls of having a distribution center was becoming too painful for us customer service wise. So we actually we sold a ton of product just by doing like a buy one, get one free, or buy the membership, get a free mat, things like that. And then we pulled the rest of it. And now we use them for our retreats. And we moved into print on demand instead. So that instead of thinking of merch as a money move, for us, merch is a branding move. It is a relationship move. When someone signs up for the app, and they get this heavy discount on one of our t-shirts, and then their t-shirt comes in the mail and they're wearing their t-shirt, they feel that much more connected and invested. And then not only that, someone might ask them, they might be able to, I've definitely have people take a picture of the back where my logo is, be like, yeah, like that's my YouTube channel. Go check it out. Instead of having to like write it down for them.
That's a cool, I love that line. It's not a money move, it's a brand move. And I think that is a smart move. How like you pair it with like your membership and it builds like fans and aficionados. Like, do you ever get like pictures with people like, I found one in the wild or anything like that? Like people would find each other in public or anything like that?
No, I don't get those pictures, but I do tell people that's why I want them wearing their shirts, so that if I find them in the wild, or they can find me in the wild or find each other in the wild. But what I do get a lot of is pictures of people's Sarah Beth yoga mats with like this beautiful picturesque background. They're like, I brought it on vacation, or they create their little yoga space at home. Or my favorite is when the yoga mat has a cat on it. And like all the time, mats and cats. I get a lot of those pictures.
That's awesome. And your final income stream that you have on here is 5% comes from live events and workshops. Now, you have already kind of talked about how you are doing retreats. Is this a new thing, or is it something that you've done pretty regularly?
It's new and old. I did retreats back in 2015. And as I mentioned before, I had a pretty small audience at the time at 50,000 on YouTube. And I was doing these really small retreats at my friend's villa in Puerto Vallarta. So I was staying in the same villa as the guests for the retreats. And at the time it was fine, but I recognized like, this is not the way it's going to be going forward. I'm an introvert. I need like a lot of space to myself, especially when I'm hosting a retreat and I'm giving so much energy to people. So, I hosted 3 retreats that year in 2015, but then I got pregnant. I had my first son. I dealt with a lot of years of mental health and postpartum and balancing all of this amazing business and motherhood. And it wasn't until last February, so February 2024, that I hosted my next retreat. And that retreat was amazing. It was in a resort in Colorado Springs. I had 30 guests attend. I had my own private space that I could retreat to myself. My whole team was there supporting me. I hired a sound bath person. I got everyone private massages as part of their retreat attendance. And I loved it so much that I had to have my team ground me down to be like, hey, just a reminder, we're not a retreat business. Like, this is taking a lot of your energy, like 3 months at least, where your brain is like laser focused. I'm like, yeah, that's true, but I love it. So we're doing one a year because I do love it so much, but also because they need my energy in other places. The next one is February 2025.
I feel like I'm going to like tap you for like all of your knowledge, because one of the conversations, so for context, Sarah Beth and I met at Vid Summit at a mixer that I hosted for Women in Video. It was the 5-year anniversary celebration of bringing that community together. And everyone was like, this is great. I want more. How can we get more women together? Like, they're forming masterminds together, doing all this really great stuff. And I remember talking with some of my female friends that were at the event and stuff later. I'm like, I never figured out how really to like monetize Women in Video in an effective way. And they're like, you should do a retreat. They're like, just bring like a small group of women together. We can mastermind. We can do like thumbnail photo sessions together. Maybe you can feel like a guest speaker, but then just like, it's just chatting and like luxury and relaxing and togetherness. And I was like, I mean, I want to go to that, but it's one of those things that's kind of like, it seems so big to me. For what we're doing, but I love people really like that idea. A lot of people were like, that's a great idea, you should do that. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Which is kind of the story of my life. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah. I can connect you with a friend of mine that does that for people.
Perfect.
And she's helping me with mine too, because I go so deep on the research that I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. I have other things to do.
Very easy trap. Okay, Sarah, what is your next money move?
Our next money move is to launch a smaller membership offering. So a lot of people are saying the jump between YouTube that's free and the membership that's $39 a month is too big of a jump. And I get that. I hear you. So we're going to launch a school, essentially. It's called the 10-Minute Yoga Club. So the only thing in this membership will be 10-minute yoga videos. They will be on a calendar so that every single day you have a 10-minute yoga video, no matter what day it is. And there will be a small community in there of people doing it. We'll do giveaways. So that way there's almost like a Sarah Beth Yoga Lite version.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. And we're thinking $10 a month because like stick with the tens.
I think it sounds perfect. $10 for 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
It's like the marketing slogan writes itself. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have the links to everything that we talked about over like where you can find all the things that Sarah Beth is doing with Sarah Beth Yoga and all the things over at thefundedyoutuber.com for our show notes and the episode information. Thank you so much for sharing with us your business and financial journey, Sarah. You have been such a pleasure to speak with. Remember, everybody, until next week, go get that money. Peace. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by GigaStar, a parent company of GigaStar Market, an SEC-registered funding portal and member of FINRA. Learn more at gigastar.io. Neither GigaStar nor its affiliated companies provide legal, regulatory, financial, or tax advice. Any opinions expressed herein are those of the authors and are the informational purposes only. The information and opinions expressed herein are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investments, objectives, finance situation, or needs of any specific investors.